Let me quickly bring in Mr. Subodh Bhargav, former chairman of Aisher. Mr. Bhargav, government clearing FDI in multi-brand retail, in aviation. How do you look at this development? Will this change the environment that the market was desperately looking for? Mr. Bhargav, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm Jitendra Bhargav.
Mr. Jitendra Bhargav, my apologies. My producer told me it was Mr. Subodh Bhargav on the line. Mr. Jitendra Bhargav, will this change the environment?
You see, I wouldn't call it a game changer because the decision has come far too late. Because the airlines, particularly Kingfisher, which need FDI from foreign airlines, have accumulated too much of debt on their books. Now, for any airline to invest money with a market share that Kingfisher has reduced itself to, it may not be a very sound proposition for a foreign airline to put in the kind of money that is needed.
Okay, but is this, if not a game changer, at least a step in the right direction? Will it change things positively?
Yes, I'll go along with it, that it is a positive development. Nobody will deny that fact. But if you recall, 6 months ago when a decision was taken to allow airlines to import ATF directly, it hasn't materialized. I think Government of India needs to take a series of decisions to ensure that the aviation sector is more conducive for profitability. At the moment, it isn't, because even if a foreign airline is interested in the India story, the reality is if an airline is not assured a profit, how much money should be pumped in will always remain a question mark with a foreign carrier wanting to invest in India.
Indeed, and that's a fair point you're making, Javed. The government may take a decision in fits and starts. The follow-through, the follow-up, most experts say appears to be lacking. You know, it's one step forward and two steps back.
Yes, that's primarily because they don't think this through, and primarily also because of pressure from allies and from political parties. Of course, it is the government's responsibility to take decisions, but it's also incumbent on all political parties. All of them now need to put India first. If they do believe that this is in the nation's interest, then, you know, they should shed populism aside. And, you know, there comes a time when you must rise above party interest and at least in 25% of the cases take decisions which are in the nation's interest. If indeed, if experts agree and if the wisdom is, if the wise counsel is that this is indeed what the doctor ordered for India's case, for the Indian economy, then it's time for political parties to lend their shoulder to the wheel.
Okay, Jitendra Bhargav, one fear about FDI in aviation was that, you know, some cartels will start to then control the aviation sector. They will decide when prices go up, when prices come down, and the government say will be reduced. Do you buy that fear? Do you buy that logic?
No, I wouldn't buy that logic, considering the fact that you've got very dominating alliances like the Star Alliance with multiple members already operating a number of flights to various points in India. 10 years ago, I would have said yes, they will lead to cartelization at the expense of the Indian carriers. But with Indian carriers also wanting to become members of alliances, I don't think if the government has, of course we'll have to look at the fine print now, if there are details, necessary safeguards introduced, because in the initial years, we will need safeguards to protect the Indian carriers, which should be the prime responsibility of the government while ensuring that the aviation sector prospers.
Okay, and that is something that's desperately required at this stage. Let me take our viewers to Paris and get a view from Mr. J.J. Boylott once again. Mr. Boylott, you were talking about creating an environment, taking more steps than just one. Now that the government has taken several steps or appears to be moving in the right direction, will this instill confidence among investors internationally?
Well, here again, I think we have to separate the decisions on the retail on one end, which is very much disputable because, as you know, there's a strong part of the Indian society against that liberalization, and the decision on the Indian carriers, the airlines. On the airlines, I think that most probably everybody agree that India has to open either in India or abroad. The problem is, as you know, the global industry is in a very bad shape, And I'm not expecting to see in the near term a foreign airline company coming to India. And this is a problem of supply and demand.
Yeah.
Now, on the retail industry, where there is a huge demand from foreign companies to come, and particularly, as you know, from Carrefour, my concern is about, again, the lack of consensus in India about this economic decision. I'm really afraid that a political crisis is looming, and investors doesn't like political crisis.